5 to 10 chat about updating snapshots. But what I really would love and appreciate from you guys is for you guys to throw down what's happening in your world. So if you could, guys, just in the messages there, uh, maybe tell me a little bit about what snapshots you guys are doing, what you're trying to do with your snapshots. Are you trying to manage multiple snapshots or multiple niches? Are you trying to make the ultimate snapshot for everything? Or, yeah, I'd just love to read that there while I give a little presentation here. So without further ado, I'm going to just throw that on here. And I have share and permission. I do. Good job. Go away, templates. Cool. And we're all seeing the screen fine there, Mario?
Yeah, we're good, man.
Beautiful. Cool. Updating a snapshot. So I think another reason why talking about updating a snapshot is a great spot because we can work backwards from the problems that we're going to talk about, from the issues that we're going to run into. We can work backwards to even planning and building our snapshots in the first place. Or when you're buying a snapshot, you kind of need to know what it's going to be like running a day to day or using a snapshot in the day to day to be able to really kind of know what you want to ask about. So just a quick thing again about myself. I've been doing 5 years of HighLevel. I've helped a couple agencies get their gold SaaS awards. I'm currently working full time for Vertical Action, which is one of the few diamond award SaaS companies. It means they have over 1,000 HighLevel accounts. Pretty crazy, and more is coming all the time. And I've developed a snapshot management system, which a couple of you I see all in there that we're going to be going through. And I'm going to be putting you guys through the gauntlet of one of the most hardest things you're ever going to do in snapshots. And I also meme a bit on Facebook, but we don't need to hear more about me. So the first thing that I always like to talk about when it comes to snapshots and snapshot planning is this great quote from Seth Godin, which is fail fast and cheap, fail often, and fail in a way that doesn't kill you. Marketers, you guys are very used to, and I used to run my own marketing agency. We're very used to the idea of failing fast, right? We all want to like build things, test it out, fail, and then move on. The challenge, though, with a snapshot that I'm sure some of you have quickly realized is that in HighLevel or any kind of development software SaaS world, when you fail, you don't actually get a chance to start over with a clean slate each day. Each new client, the problems kind of compound over and over because if you build a snapshot, that one problem goes out to every single client. And then when you make a new change, that's now complexifying all of those clients. And so the second part of this quote is the most important that I always want you guys to keep in your head, which is that you need to fail in a way that doesn't kill you. And so what that means in snapshots, we had to simplify it. It means starting small. It means starting with small amounts of clients that you roll out to before you tackle the really big ones. And it means that you really need to understand the implications of what you're doing because the things that you create now, you're going to be stuck with for a while if you're not careful. And so for updating a snapshot, there's a couple assumptions I like to roll with. In a perfect world, is that when we're rolling out snapshots, clients or updates to snapshots, that clients are not building or modifying their accounts without your knowledge. That's going to be a whole other topic that we could talk about, which is how do you manage that? But right now, we're going to be talking about just when you as the agency manage the client's accounts for them, they're just using the account. They're not touching anything, right? If they're touching stuff, that's we'll talk about that in another session. And the other assumption is that you are aware of all of the customizations that have been done to your accounts. Now, it might sound like this the same thing. It's slightly different because you might build all the key assets of a client account, but you might not be aware of how many of their templates, their email templates that they might have modified. So we're going to assume that you are fully aware of everything that's happening in all of your accounts and that you know what has been changed and what hasn't by all the clients. I should also throw my chat up there. Actually, Mari, if you get a chance, if any message chats come up, just because Zoom's always silly and hiding it on me, just feel free to just interrupt with those questions. So before you guys want to begin with a snapshot update, what you really need to do is you need to make sure that you have a list of all of the assets. And when I say assets, I mean all of your workflows, all of your tags, all of your custom fields and values that were changed in this update. And by extension, we're also assuming then that you have a list of all your assets of the original snapshot. But we'll go into that later. So what you need to make sure is that you know not just not just having a copy of your new snapshot or the new version of your snapshot, but you have to make sure that you know everything that has changed. And I have a list of those. You need to know what specifically has changed about them as well, because sometimes you can make a change, but you don't know why you change it. Maybe you fixed a bug 4 months ago, and this is finally making it into your new version. Maybe you changed how the logic of a workflow is. You need to have that written down because when it comes to troubleshooting those changes on accounts, because sometimes some client accounts, a snapshot won't roll out perfectly, or there's something a little bit different that you have to troubleshoot. You need to know why those changes happened. Otherwise, you might not understand the consequences of those. There might be some collateral damage, if you will, that happens. Before you roll out a snapshot, you also have to know what's safe to overwrite. And what we mean is that if you have an email template that you want the clients to customize, like change this up, write this in your own words, well, you can no longer push that asset out, right? Because if you push it out, what happens? It overwrites. All your changes are gone. That can happen in a workflow. Are there workflows where the clients might want to change the timing of things, or they might not be using an email template and you actually edit it right in the workflow? Well, if that happens, you need to know which one of your workflows you can overwrite because they're just basic logic things that don't change, or are they things that get customized? You need to know which ones are going to have to be manually updated. It kind of goes in with the last one is that anything that you cannot push out and overwrite, any one of those things, well, that means you're going to have to manually update those in every single client account. It means you're going to have a list of assets that can be overwritten, and you're going to have a list of assets that you're going to have to go through every account and go, okay, we need to roll this one out and manually change this to fix that bug. Or we're going to have to add this if condition in the workflow to every single one of these and move things over and do whatever it takes to get that going. So you're kind of seeing that when it comes to rolling out changes, there can be a lot of exponential work that can happen if you're not very careful. And there's onboarding checklists that it's good to have. You need to know what it takes to set those up. And preferably, you're going to need a live demo test account with the previous version of your snapshot installed. This is a key part that people often miss is they take their snapshot, they roll it out to clients, and then they start their tests on those live client accounts. What I think is a really great technique, and this is one that you should, if you're not doing it, do this right now, is create a demo account that you fully set up and that you fully onboard, like with a mock client, and do your tests of the new version of your snapshot on that old one. And the reason why you want to do that is, and not just test the snapshot on its own, is you want to be able to get a sense for what happens when you roll out those changes, because you're not trying to test, does the snapshot work on its own? You need to really know what breaks, what duplicates, was there any errors? Did you change anything that you didn't realize you changed? And by onboarding to an old version, that's going to give you a more true picture of how your snapshot update's going to go than just testing the snapshot on a fresh account in a bubble. How we doing there? How we doing there, Mario?
We are good, man. So we have Fabrizio said that, hey there, my answer to how we use a snapshot is managing translations and localization, delivering our custom processes and uh, to our clients is added value for choosing us. In the future, there will be custom snapshots for specific niches and helps us say, yes, there's a software house behind us, but if you get in from us, it's completely different.
Oh, wow, that's a bunch one. The translations one. So managing translations and localizations. So I'd love to know, hey, Fabrizio, would you want to jump on the mic and tell us a bit about that one? I'm actually really curious about that.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing
All
there,
right.
Fabrizio?
Pretty badly. Some maintainers just came here to fix my kitchen and they broke everything more than it was. So I'm with
Oh,
water all around, but I'm happy to contribute.
oh, okay, dude, do you have to get going? I'll let you go, man, if you need to take
No,
care
it's
of
fine.
that.
It's fine. It's fine. They
All
left, so
right.
I'm left with myself.
Cool. So how's your experience been rolling out with the snap? Tell me a little bit more about the snapshot. Like what's it's managing translations and localizations. Like tell me a bit about that.
Sure. So thanks for asking that. Translation is still, I think, a big point for non-English speaker users. I've commented it on the group, on the membership group as well. There are few issues around. So sometimes we use snapshots to translate things directly. Let's say standard emails, system emails, all of those things. It becomes a huge mess to translate them each and every time in every single account. So we use it for that. And then we
So
also have some,
so if you don't mind, just if I can just to make sure I
sure.
understand, you're using the snapshots then to roll out translations of blog posts or websites to multiple clients?
Not just that. For instance, emails when you sign contracts, confirmation email, the user has received the contract, they have signed the contract. Thank you for signing the contract. Please remind you to sign the contracts. All of those emails that when are delivered to a client in a foreign language doesn't really look nice. So
Hmm.
we use Snapshot for that.
Cool.
Actually, to be honest, I don't want to go into complaining. That's a major issue for us because there's so many system emails that we don't even know about them until you use that specific feature that maybe as an agency we know go a level decently well, but maybe there's some feature we never use because we don't do that thing and the client does, and we don't even realize that till it's too late at least.
Okay,
Or
so
something else.
So you're
Yep.
saying, just to make sure I understand, I want to just make sure. So you're saying that one of the issues you're having is that you don't know when clients change things or when they use things? Is that?
No, what I'm saying is that there are system emails.
Mm-mm. Oh, the system emails. Okay, yeah.
Exactly, default emails that sometimes we don't even know about because they belong to certain features and certain sections of the whole high-level platform
Hmm.
that we may not have explored so far because we don't use. And we
Gotcha.
have never encountered because most of our clients don't use them, but some do.
Okay. And so with snapshots, what are some of the what's been your experience rolling out with snapshots? What's working well for you, or what's not working well for you?
What's working well for us is to create, so either directly translate the emails themselves when it's possible, or to use workflows as workarounds. So we say when this happens, and then we set emails in the way we want them to be. So we make sure that the clients have those at least. Another way, if you're interested, in which we use snapshots is delivering our own processes. For instance, we have one. I'm sharing this because I think it might be a useful contribute for everybody here because it's worldwide. Most of our clients are B2B, therefore they do networking. And we created our own custom process to register business cards. So we created a form with the information the clients may want to take from the business card. Then there's an automation with an email that says, hi, Michael, was nice to meet you yesterday, and so on and so forth. We put that
Gotcha.
into the snapshot.
So that's really cool. Sorry for jumping in. I just want to make sure I keep us going here. Are there any challenges that you're having with the snapshots right now, or is there any area that you're trying to learn about to roll these out better?
Uh, One is to fully understand what you can set up in a snapshot and what you cannot set up in the snapshot.
And
That
so
is
it's
one.
yeah, and then anything else there?
Um,
That's a good spot. Nope, that's fine.
well,
That's fun. So knowing all of those things, right? Because it's
yeah.
changing all the time, and that is again why you're going to hear me harp about this documentation, right? So I think that's something everyone struggles with. High level changes things. How do you kind of keep up? And one of the examples, another visual that I've been working on is, when you take like an image, like say like just a JPEG image, right? And you save it. And then you take that image and you put it in another program and you resave it again. You throw it on Facebook and then it gets saved. There's that compression that happens over time and you start losing a lot of the details. And high level is almost kind of like a multiplier of that. It kind of is always kind of adding more complication things and you're kind of having to try and keep up. So it's really important to whatever knowledge you do have and you do possess that is true, you need to write those things down. You need to document how your assets are, how they're all functioning, because high level is going to be crazy and change things. You need to be doubly careful and doubly slow in how you do things to counteract that. So that's one little piece of us. But anyway, thank you for sharing about that. Because yeah, being able to use a snapshot to just to be able to roll out those kind of like those translations when high level's not delivering all that, it's pretty cool. So Danny, you
Thank you,
mentioned,
Mike.
yeah, Mario says to have a sub account for that particular snapshot. And so how does that differ from what I was just talking about? So yes, you should have an individual sub account for every snapshot. Although high levels change things that in a way, in a good way, actually, in a powerful way. But my general advice right now is to still always have one snapshot, one account, keep things simple. Because that way you don't want to ever start muddying the waters, like with that JPEG saving example. But what I was talking about just recently with having this account to roll out changes to, this is a little different than that. What I'm saying is you have your account that holds the snapshot, and then you have a second account with your old version of the snapshot that's just for using testing, and you take version 2 and you roll it out. So the reason why you want to have that is if you have just your snapshot and you test all your changes within that master snapshot, if you will, account, you're not going to get a clear picture of how rolling out that change is. Does that make it a little clearer, Danny? Or if you want to jump on the mic, if you have further questions, love to. Or does that answer for you?
So, hang on one second. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of making sense in my head because I guess like the one question is if I'm in an account with multiple snapshots, and each snapshot has its own account that it's just holding it and it's not necessarily a demo account, then would the demo account theoretically have all of those snapshots in it as well, but they're just like in draft mode and everything? So that way one account also has like a subdomain for testing and like a phone number for testing and A2P for testing as well.
If all of the assets are all, if like, I think you could have just one account with A2P and all of that and push change, especially if it's just for testing. The one challenge is that one account might, depending how many snapshots you're running, that account could get busy. Although
I understand.
but if you have a lot of snapshots, you should be making lots of money. That is probably worth the time to invest in that. But yeah, no, that's so yeah, you can have one account and put them all in. I don't see any issues with that unless you have custom values that share the same value. So I'm going to almost contradict myself. That to
Okay.
me feels like you should have a different account for each one. Now, when it comes to testing things like A2P, I don't think you necessarily need A2P to do a full snapshot test because what you're testing is not whether the emails deliver. You're testing whether the workflows work. You're testing whether things actually happen. And that
Oh,
part,
okay.
yeah, we're talking about like, hey, you have a bunch of workflows. You have one, let's say you have 5 workflows, and you change 3 of them and you add one. You need to know
Hmm.
what happens when you roll that out on top of an account with 5. Does that new workflow meld right? Do those 5 workflows now break and no longer function? That's the kind of thing we need to go.
Okay, yeah, I guess my concern was isn't necessarily like that the messages are sending out in like the way that they're supposed to be delivered, but just making sure that the workflow sequence is going through that like whatever 5 actions prior happen and then the text message is still sending out. And obviously with emails, that's a little bit easier to test, but like with SMS messaging, like even if you're testing, you still like need A2P verification
Yeah.
on the sub account.
Yeah, you can see that you get the error message. It just not doesn't send. But again, it depends what you're trying to test. But yeah, I mean, obviously, a pure test that's fully working is better than one that's not. But if you generally know that the emails and SMSs are sending fine and you've just changed some functions or fields, you can be okay with that. But yeah, sending everything out to one account is doable in most cases. But again, I always go to back to how many snapshots do you have, and should you actually have that many snapshots? Because I'm telling you, even running just 1 or 2 snapshots is a lot of work. Um, I've never really I've had to manage like 40 or 50 snapshots before, and it requires a team, right? It requires a
So
team to do.
So then like would it be better to I guess like keep I don't know, I guess because like I know whenever I was in like the certification program, like almost every one of the certification classes came with a snapshot. So then it would probably be better to just combine all of those into one snapshot theoretically and just be like, this is what it does, these are all the assets that are in it, kind of
So,
thing, rather than
yeah, so this is getting down to delivery, right? What is your product? What are you selling? And there's different strategies, there's different ways of approaching, but in general, multiple snapshots, uh, there's a burden of managing them, right? There's some flexibility because you don't have to, you can customize and send just what you need to people, but there is now a cost of, well, how does managing those snapshots and all of those different accounts and the changes you make? How do you track all of those changes? How do those interactions between all those snapshots change as you update them, right? So I would generally suggest, like my thing is, unless you're making a ton of money, you should have one snapshot, have one account, have one snapshot that you roll out, one tangible thing that delivers value and money to people, and make that work. If you're not making one snapshot make you money and make your clients money, adding more snapshots and more tools and more things is it's a recipe for disaster, right? Like you're adding complication without first establishing, well, what generates value for my clients. It's always better to make sure you go as simple as possible, because the consequences of complexity gets really big. Now, it's not to say you can't do that. There's nothing inherently wrong with having lots of little snapshots. It's just in my experience, and I'd love to hear other people's views on that. My experience is, and if you start having a multiple team members and you're not just a solo person, it tends to get away from you. Anyway, are we getting off track too much, or is that helping you there, Danny? Any other questions you have or follow up on that?
no.
Oh,
No, that was all of the questions that I had. And that clarified the that I was having, and that was really good. Thank you.
yeah. Steve Calabrese. Yes, Seth is the GOAT. I have his book. This is strategy. Uh, Hold on a second. Little quick plug. This book, everyone should friggin' get it. It is,
Which one is it?
this is strategy is his newest one. Yeah, is that there? Yeah. This strategy, it's the blue one. It's his latest one. It is mind blowing. It'll change your life.
I didn't know he had a new
Multiple.
book. Damn.
Yeah, Yeah, it's deep, man. It's taken me forever to read it because it's just so deep. So Steve there, multiple sub accounts with multiple snapshots. Want to chat a little bit? Tell me a little bit what you doing with snapshots, Steve?
Yeah. Okay. So I have two niches, verticals. Loan officers, well, actually, I have three. Loan officers and insurance agents are my main one.
Hmm.
Um, I had an old agency for loan officers, and I just acquired an agency for insurance agents.
Awesome.
And what I ended up doing was I had less clients than the new agency did, so I
Hmm.
migrated all my agents, all my loan officers from my old agency onto the new insurance agency, and then I'm going to rebrand the insurance agency, and then no one has to like input their credit card info again, and I'll have like no, I should have very little drop off. So,
Sounds like
uh,
it. Sounds like a plan, but what happened?
well, I'm just trying to figure out how to do it all. So I'm going to have an insurance sub account. I'm going to have a loan officer sub account, and I'm actually going to have a real estate agent sub account
Hmm.
because I already have hundreds or thousands of contacts in each one of them. So like I'm not going to like migrate the contacts. Like it's already there. So I'm gonna have three sub accounts to like run the businesses out of, the business out of. I'm going to have a master snapshot account, and then I'm going to have another account, test snapshot account. Right? Am I hearing right?
Okay, so just to make sure, taking a step back, we're talking about you have three set snapshots for three different niches, and you have these existing accounts, and you want to have these three sub accounts. You want to roll out these changes or updates to those existing clients. Is that correct? Cool, cool. So yeah, and you're asking, just clarifying, how does that process work from what we're just saying? Yeah. So what you would ideally want is to have a a an account that has how the clients are in this existing place, and then you want to have your snapshots that you have, and you want to be able to roll out a test. Now you can use you can like if you have a client that's good, with that's flexible with you, or if you have some like you can do that as well. If you know everything that's going on, but generally what you want to have is a demo account that has an example of what's already there. Roll out those changes, make sure that nothing breaks, go through a whole list of
So
tests
update
in fun.
that demo account first,
Yes.
basically, is what you're
Yes.
saying.
Yeah.
Demo accounts.
Yeah, right. It sounds super simple. Like I always think it's like, oh yeah, people know how to. It's like it's so easy to forget. There's 1,000 things you have to do, but just doing that extra step, it'll find problems and prevent any disasters from happening. But two, it'll give you confidence, right? Because once you've rolled out a snapshot and you go, how's everything going to work? And then you go and you test it, you're like, oh yeah, this works. It gives you that extra confidence to start rolling things and making moves again, as opposed to feeling, okay, I hope I didn't break anything in that last update, right? Is that helpful
Gotcha.
for you?
Yeah, so I have my own mortgage business is like my CRM is in it. So I can just use that for the demo account, right?
If you have
I'm in
your
it
own
every day.
business. Yeah, if you want to, yeah, if you can use yourself as a guinea pig, there's nothing ever wrong with that, But when we're talking about snapshots and rolling them out to multiple clients, like not just doing it stuff for your own self, I'm generally going to say, no, you should have a actual dedicated test account because rolling things out to your own account, that's not scalable. Like it works for you, but when we're talking snapshots and at scale, we're talking about being able to eventually get a team. We're eventually getting people in, and you want to
So
set
yeah,
up your
we don't want to do that.
process. Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
You want to think long term because that short term it leads. Oh yeah, yeah. Just roll out some tests on my account will be fine, and you don't get a right proper test that way. Cool,
Demo
cool.
test account for each sub account slash niche.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so the process, you have your snapshot. And I'll go back to our listener. We went on a big tangent, but as I said, I could talk about snapshots all day, but I much prefer you guys to get your real problems because that is way better than just listening to dude speak at you on a Thursday morning for a bit. Cool. We got another 20 minutes here, so I still got lots of time. Cool. So recap, you need a list of assets. So yeah, this is great to actually recap this because now you're thinking about it, hey, we need to know everything in our snapshot that was changed. We need to know what's safe to overwrite and manually update. And as we're just going with Steve, we need to actually prove that that's how it works. Because you might think, oh, this is safe to update and this is safe to push out. But when you do your test, that's when you actually find out, when you actually work with it. Having that live demo test account and a list, and this is a big one too. You need a list of tests to perform that confirms everything works. I'm going to say that one again. You need a list of the tests that you or a VA or a client can perform that will confirm to them that everything works. So when you have a snapshot, if anyone's from the developer world, this is called like test cases, and you guys are familiar with that. But what we need to be able to do is, you might, if you built the snapshot, you know everything, right? You know what works, what doesn't. You know, in your head anyway, you think you sometimes know what it is. But what you need to be able to scale things is to be able to give this snapshot to a VA or the client and saying, hey, do these tests and make sure everything works before you go, right? It's kind of like, when sorry, I don't even need an example. I think that's fine enough as it is. You need those tests because when a client gets this account that you set up for them, there's a lot of anxiety on their side, right? Because they assume everything works, but until they've actually done some things, sometimes it's hard for them to actually know it works or how it does. So by having a list of tests to perform and how to do those tests, you can not only make it easier to hand it to a VA saying, hey, here's my latest snapshot. Here's all the tests. Do them. Tell me if it works or if there's any problems. Cool. But now what you can also do is saying, hey, client, here's your account. Here's like 3 or 4 tests that you can do, to make sure that it's all hitting your email right, that when you sign up for the lead magnet, that the clients get tagged and that you know how that goes. Like it walks them through the process and it builds confidence in using this system that you set up instead of just kind of tossing them into the wilderness and hoping they figure it all out. Fabrizio had a quick question. We are partnering with a business community 2000. We promised them we could provide them the customized version. They will be promoting our platform. Can we cosmeticize a snapshot? For instance, putting a different main platform logo or menu section, anything else that could be useful. So the question, if I'm getting you, is you want to have a snapshot that just looks a little different. So it's the same snapshot, but it just has some different cosmetic changes. Yeah, that's called custom values, man. You use the custom values, change the custom values, and you're good to go. Or if you have multiple versions of the same snapshot, you would just change. It would be the same snapshot, but you would actually have multiple snapshots to deliver. So what you usually want to do is have for all of those cosmetic changes, put those in the custom values, and then just have those custom values update the agency logo. So not just the business logo, right? But then the agency that's managing its logo will also be a custom value. Because that way, you only need one snapshot again, right? That one snapshot has the agency logo, it has the agency email, it has the agency tagline, as the agency email signatures, and then you can make all your notifications going out to the agency's client via custom value. You have one snapshot, because the alternative is you have cosmetic changes that makes you have a different snapshot, and now you have 4 or 5 you have 4 or 5 snapshots or 2,000 snapshots that you have to manage, and you don't want that, because even if the snapshots are functionality the same, if it comes to updating those, you now have to update it 1,000 times. So snapshots, you always want to keep it as simply as possible. Steve says, thoughts on updating a snapshot versus, and Fabrizio, just put in the text if that was useful, if you have a follow-up question there. So Steve says, thoughts on updating a new snapshot versus making a new version. Updating a new snapshot versus making a new version. Steve, just real quick, what do you mean? What's the
Yeah, so
difference
like if I
between?
have a snapshot for all my loan officers
Yeah.
and like do I just have one snapshot and every time I make a change, I just like have a snapshot and just like update it and then push the update to the accounts? Or do I like make a new
Yeah.
snapshot?
Yeah. So the whole purpose of snapshots is to roll them out. That's ideally the way to do it. Um, that's how most people do it too. So when it comes to updating a new snapshot, this is where this process, and I am sharing, yes, I am sharing it. Um, that's what this process is all about, which is you have your list of assets in version one, you have the list of assets that are changed. So that requires that you're writing down what you've changed as you go because you'll never remember that, 3, 4 weeks, 2 months later. And when you have that list of snapshot or those changes, and you know what you can overwrite and what you can't because the clients customize it, you can then push those all out to a test account, see how those changes roll out. And then once you've established that that version 2 of rolling out is safe, you can then push it out to clients there. Jared, where can I buy these snapshots to build them out yourself? You can buy snapshots, but now my caution always is that are they providing you a list of all of the assets and documentation how that works? Do they know which ones are safe to overwrite? Because a lot of people build snapshots, but they're building it to give to you to manage. They're not generally going to manage the updates. So if you don't know how that snapshot works completely and what you can and can't overwrite, what's safe, you could get yourself into a lot of trouble. So if you're just trying to buy some snapshots to apply like an agency, like one client, one snapshot, and you're managing the client, you're doing like 5K retainers. I think you can buy snapshots and you just deal with the fact that you're manually doing things. But when we're talking snapshots at scale, which I think what a lot of people are, I generally recommend that you start maybe use one snapshot as a template, but you should really make sure that you know how to build everything and have some internal knowledge on building. And the reason is that if you buy a snapshot as a shortcut, you're also shortcutting out all of the internal knowledge of how snapshots and workflows work, how things actually operate. And you're missing a lot of that learning that can get you in trouble when you're trying to then troubleshoot things that someone else built from you down the road. I'm not saying it can't work, but I'm just saying be very careful when buying snapshots that you're not using it to shortcut the learning process. Because if you're trying to scale stuff, you need internal knowledge. You need to understand how things work. Otherwise, when things go wrong, yeah, you didn't know that could go wrong because you didn't learn how those things work. And you can get into trouble, right? Do I build snapshots? I work for an agency and I do build snapshots. I've always done customize. I don't do snapshot client. I don't do any building for people anymore. I do this. I do this and I manage a Diamond agency's snapshots. Glad that was helpful for you there, Jared. Oh boy, man, the time's just flying. Keep the questions coming, guys. I appreciate it. We'll try and rip through this. Actually, I don't need to get through this. If you guys have more questions, just interrupt, jump on in, throw those questions down, and we'll get to them. That's what we're here for, is to help you guys. So assuming you have all of those checklists of stuff, here's your rollout checklist. So step one, you push the new version of, so you have your version 1 snapshot on a test account. Step 1 then is to push your version 2 to that snapshot test account. Select only the assets that were changed. So you don't need to push out the entire snapshot. You can pinpoint just the assets that were changed. You want to complete any related onboarding steps for those assets. So a big thing that I talk about in documenting your onboarding, don't just have your onboarding training. You need to keep documentation of each individual asset's setup needs. So every workflow, you should have the notes of what needs to be set up to onboard someone to this to make this asset work. And the reason is for this purpose right here. When you're rolling out changes for snapshots, you want to be able to know, hey, I've pushed out 10 changes or these 10 assets or these, let's say 10 workflows. It's a 20 workflow snapshot, but I'm only changing these 10 things. Well, now you have a list of those 10 things that you can go in and pinpoint and make sure that they're working correctly, right? Whereas if you just have a giant onboarding process, it can sometimes get hard for you or a VA to kind of like navigate and find which parts they need to focus on for those things. So by keeping an individual checklist for onboarding steps, that's super helpful. Perform tests to ensure the snapshot's functional. It's not just something to roll out the changes, actually test them. People like to skip that part. Note any areas that are going to be problematic. This is a step a lot of people don't think about. Notifying clients of the update. Changing client accounts without letting them know. Big no-no. I make that mistake every once in a while. It's something, it's always hard to, we don't want to tell people, we just want to get the work done. But letting people know changes are coming is always a good idea. If they need to do things, make it very clear what they need to do for this change. Make sure you reinforce that with a couple messages, because telling them once in an email that they may or may not have read is not helpful to them. This is also a time for them to report any issues. Sometimes we don't want to tell people that we're changing things because we're worried, oh, they're gonna, we don't want them to see any of the issues. We want to fix those issues quietly. It's like, no, get your clients to let them, hey, we're changing things. If anything breaks, tell us, that's a great way to get that out. And push the new version to a small batch of client accounts. So even though you've tested it, don't roll it out to everybody. It's do yourself a favor, roll it out to 1 or 2 or 3. If that goes well, then roll it out to the rest of them. Have a progressive way of rolling things out will be much more consistent. And then, of course, give your clients those tests. Do some of those tests. Spot check 1 or 2 clients. Yes, you did the test account, but a live account's always a different beast. And do we have anything else? Oh, yeah. Another thing about snapshots we don't talk about or rolling out changes is like telling people what you've added to the account. It's also marketing. A lot of people don't think about this. It's like, don't just tell your clients. Tell Facebook. Tell people, hey, this is what we've added to our snapshot. Hey, this is this cool new feature we did. Hey, we went and improved the conversion rate of all of these, of all of our lead gen workflows. Use your snapshot update process to not just build more trust with your current clients, but to get new ones as well. Fabrizio is also asking, do clients experience interruptions during a rollout? Generally, no. I mean, in the exact moment a workflow changes, what you do have to watch out for is that any clients that are in a workflow, they're going to be in the old version. So until they get out of the workflow and come back in, they're those contacts there aren't going to get all of the new changes. So be cognizant of that. It's also why I like telling people to build lots of small workflows, not one big giant one, and that would help mitigate this. So yeah, and this is another reason why you tell people, right? Because if you don't tell people that there's going to be interruptions and you don't know what kind of interruptions will happen, that's when you get angry clients that are like, yeah, even though you couldn't have expected it, they're going to expect you to know what's going to happen. We co-branded all clients. Fabrizio, I can get 1 or 2 more questions in here.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, jump on in.
So I saw Steve was asking about updating the snapshot versus like making a new version. So just to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly as well, whenever I have current clients in my sub account, I'd let them know like, hey, just so you know, we're fixing some bugs with our course creation snapshot. This is going to be the new snapshot version 2. Here's our documents. Here's the test that you need to do. And then any new client comes in, they would be buying Danny's course creator version 2 snapshot, correct?
100%. Yeah, they get the new, clean, fancy version. And this is just the only reason you need the whole test and rolling it at what the previous ones is if you have current clients, right? Because they need to, you need to take care of those people there for sure. And the test ones, yeah, it's definitely great to put in there, right? Because like, hey guys,
Mhm.
here's the new changes. Here is 2 or 3 things you can do to make sure everything's working. Tell us if there's any issues, right? It's a bunch of extra steps for you. It's a bunch of extra steps for them. But the people that do it, if they find anything goes wrong, you need to know about that as fast as possible. Two,
Yeah.
anytime there's a change, people are always going to be a little nervous, right? They're always like, okay, what's changed? Why is this different? Well, this is going to show them, hey, look, it's working exactly the same as before, right? So yeah,
Mhm.
that's awesome.
And then
Cool. Mhm.
backing on to Fabrizio's question, just because it's not making sense in my head the way you explained it. What do you mean by when a client's in a workflow? Like if I just so happen to be working in my sub account and a new snapshot also gets like rolled out to me, I have to back out of that workflow and like
Oh
refresh
no,
my
I'm talking
screen.
about the contacts. I wasn't clear. I'm talking about like contacts. I'm not too worried
Okay.
about, yeah, they working in it. Like that's clients shouldn't be working in workflows. I was talking about your contacts when they're in a workflow. If you push out a change and that workflow changes, the contacts that are in that workflow are going to be on the old one, version one, still
Oh,
until they
okay. So
get
like
out.
your like long-term nurture sequences and stuff, if you have that set up in your account, the whatever 100 clients that you have in your long-term nurture sequence will
They're
still be on the
still gonna,
old
yeah,
one.
they're still gonna be in there. So now the email templates will send new, well, they'll send the new ones correctly. But if you put an if condition in to
Hmm.
filter out something, the old ones aren't gonna get that if condition. They're gonna just keep going on the old system.
Gotcha.
Cool, cool. Well, guys, I really appreciate all the questions. I did get to all the end of my stuff there, and I appreciate y'all. I'm going to be here every single Thursday morning, bright and early with an energy drink, tea, and a water. Actually, do I? I don't have a tea today. Oh, shoot. And I'm just going to just keep the questions coming. I'm also going to be posting in Mario's coaching session there under the snapshot section. So if you have further questions, let's keep it going. And I can't wait to show you a lots more. Mario, how'd we do,
Awesome,
buddy?
Mike. Thank you so much. That was great, buddy. I actually learned a lot too, so I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for, being an awesome coach. And I will see everyone at promptly at noon Eastern time or 9 a.m. Pacific for our customer service training with Tim Sabir. So if you want to join that, it's going to be a great call. And if not, I'll see you guys soon.